4 minutes into the third quarter, Travis Kelce caught a second down pass, converted the first, and celebrated in a way the NFL decided crossed the line. The league reviewed the footage after the game and handed Kelce a $14,491 fine for unsportsmanlike conduct/obscene gestures. That number and that ruling are straightforward enough. What's worth unpacking is why the league made that call now, why Kelce probably saw it coming, and what it means for him, the Chiefs, and celebrations league-wide. First, context. The NFL came into this season with a clear point of emphasis: clamp down on non-football, especially violent or sexually explicit celebrations. League officials cited a jump in violent, inappropriate gestures last year and told teams players would be held accountable. So this wasn't a random surprise. Players were explicitly warned that certain kinds of showmanship would attract fines, even when officials didn't throw a flag on the field. When you're one of the game's highest profile stars and the league prominently advertises an enforcement priority, the risk-reward calculation for any celebration changes. Kelce isn't new to this dynamic. He's celebrated wildly over a long career, and he's also been fined before. For example, last season's Unsportsmanlike prop-related fine for the crossbar dunk that referenced Tony Gonzalez. That particular fine generated a story in which Gonzalez reportedly covered Kelce's bill, and it served as a reminder that big-name celebrations attract big-name scrutiny. Kelce knows the choreography: score, celebrate, pay. The difference this time is that the league's message was louder than usual, and Kelce's gesture happened in a national, primetime, emotionally charged situation. So yes, he should have seen this coming. From a rules perspective, two things matter. The first is the categorization. The NFL classifies unsportsmanlike conduct broadly, and it covers gestures that are intended to demean, incite, or simulate sexual or violent acts. The second is enforcement mechanics. If an official doesn't throw a flag, the league still has the authority to review and fine afterward. That retroactive enforcement is designed to preserve game flow, while giving the league the ability to police conduct consistently across the season. Practically speaking, this dual system of on-field discretion plus post-game discipline creates predictability and risk for players who like to push the envelope. There are several implications for Kelce personally. First, there's pocket change. While $14,491 is meaningful to most fans, it's not career-altering for an all-time veteran. The financial impact isn't the point for someone at Kelce's level. It's the precedent and public messaging. Kelce is a leader and a brand. When he does something the league flags, it's a teaching moment for younger players about where the boundaries are. It also costs him and the team a small sliver of goodwill with league officials. Repeated fines can sometimes invite closer scrutiny from the office or officiating crews in future games. Second, there's the competitive optics. Kelce's celebrations have a function beyond personal expression. They're part of the Chiefs' cultural identity. They rile up the crowd and sometimes are a way of punctuating momentum. But the league's crackdown has made the calculus more punitive. A short-lived, emotional flourish can now have immediate consequences: a fine, and potential downstream ones, suspension risk if behavior is repeated or escalated. For the Chiefs, the practical ask is simple: keep the energy, trim the actions that attract league discipline. You don't want your best veteran fumbling the team's public relations or disciplinary capital for a momentary headline. Third, there's the PR angle. Kelce lives in both sports and pop culture. He's a global figure with brand deals, a public persona that extends beyond Arrowhead, and a visibility that amplifies anything he does. That makes every gesture a story, and stories that involve obscene or sexual content are especially combustible in mainstream media. The league's crackdown is partly about protecting broad audience sensibilities and partner relationships. From a public-facing perspective, Kelce's most prudent move is the simplest: tone down anything that courts the kind of interpretation the league singled out this offseason. We should also think about the league's intent. The NFL's emphasis is rooted in two things: player safety and brand protection. The rise of gun simulation celebrations, throat-slash imitations, and other explicit acts created headlines that made sponsors and television partners jittery. The office wants a family-friendly presentation without sterilizing the game. The clean solution is to tell players, celebrate, be creative, but keep it PG. That puts the onus on stars to invent celebrations that are showy but not provocative. The Kelce fine is a reminder to every player that creativity now lives inside a narrower box. There's an inevitability here, too. The NFL has always had a push-pull with players about expression. Go back decades and you'll find fights over choreography, props, and premeditated taunts. The difference in the streaming and social era is speed. A moment goes viral in seconds, and the league's sponsors feel it instantly. That accelerates enforcement. Players who built careers off charismatic self-expression, Kelce among them, are going to have to evolve. That doesn't mean the spectacle dies. It means the spectacle adapts. What should Kelce and teammates do next? Practically, brief the entire offense and special teams on the league's point of emphasis and the exact categories that carry heightened risk: sexual gestures, throat slash type motions, gun simulations, and anything the league deems obscene. Second, rehearse alternative celebrations, choreographed dances, prefabricated team gestures, brief props that fall squarely inside the acceptable range. Third, when emotions run hot, err on the conservative side. The marginal value of a single expressive moment is rarely worth the marginal cost of a fine plus a PR story. Will Kelce appeal? He can, and he might. Stars sometimes appeal fines to set a precedent or buy time in negotiations with the league. In practice, most appeals of this nature fail unless a clear, objective error is shown. For instance, if the league misidentified the actor or mischaracterized the gesture. An appeal delays public resolution, but rarely changes the underlying message: the league is watching. Finally, the tone is important. Fans will split along predictable lines. Some will shrug and call it petty officiating. Others will laud the league for enforcing standards. There's room for both reactions. Both are part of the game's public theater. But inside team rooms where coaches and GMs make roster and culture decisions, the conversation is pragmatic. Discipline that's avoidable should be avoided. So what's the takeaway? Kelce was fined for doing something the league had told everyone this offseason they would penalize. The amount is small relative to his earnings. The lesson, though, is not. High-visibility players now have a narrower lane for self-expression. Kelce can keep celebrating and remain a cultural engine for the Chiefs, but going forward, he'll do it inside a frame that keeps the league, partners, and family audiences comfortable. That's not the end of personality in football. It's a subtle rule change in the age of viral replay. Be bold, but be careful. The NFL has fined Chiefs tight end Travis Kelce $14,491 for unsportsmanlike conduct stemming from an obscene celebration during Kansas City's Week 2 loss to the Philadelphia Eagles. The league assessed the penalty after the game. Officials did not flag the play on the field. The incident occurred with about 4 minutes left in the third quarter when Kelce hauled in a second down catch to move the chains and followed it with a celebration the league later deemed inappropriate. Kelce has been fined before for on-field celebrations, most recently last season for using a prop in an end zone routine that drew a fine for unsportsmanlike conduct. The NFL issued a league-wide point of emphasis this offseason targeting non-football acts and sexually explicit or violent gestures. Officials said those kinds of celebrations rose sharply last year. Unsportsmanlike gestures like simulating or either shooting a gun or brandishing a gun, or inappropriate gestures like a throat slash or unfortunate sexual gestures, those were up 133%. NFL officiating rules analyst Walt Anderson explained in August. He added that clubs and players were warned to focus on clean, nonviolent celebrations. Players were notified of the emphasis before the season, making this type of fine a foreseeable consequence for actions that cross the line. Kelce can appeal the fine, but given the league's public stance and the prior notice to teams, the more likely outcome is a change in how he celebrates moving forward.